So Elder Scrolls Online is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. It's the first time that you're able to play an Elder Scrolls game with your friends. So if you played Oblivion or Skyrim in the past, now with Elder Scrolls Online you can play with your friends. When we started developing Elder Scrolls Online, one of the things we did was we had two columns, and we kind of wrote down like, okay, here's what we like as an Elder Scrolls game, and here's what we like in MMOs. For instance, we want to make combat more like Skyrim, so we want to make it more involved. Active blocking, active sword swing, or firing off spells. So that was really important to us, is getting just the right amount of those features together to create its own unique experience and a fun game. One of the tough calls in creating Elder Scrolls Online was looking at how do you make the world balanced for so many players that are online at the same time, because in a single player game it's a slightly different balancing problem, and so we had to make sure that the game had levels and that we couldn't just allow you to explore everywhere, because that would mean there was very little progression in the game, and we wanted to have progression be something you really felt, but we wanted to have just enough space to where you still felt like you could explore regardless of your level. So that was probably one of the hardest things we had to overcome, was getting that feeling of progression in the game while still allowing players to explore a lot of space. For me, Elder Scrolls Action starts off with, we want to immerse you in the world. So when you play Elder Scrolls Online, probably one of the first things you're going to see is that we don't have a lot of UI in the screen. That kind of just disappears until you get into combat, and then we have a short strip of a shortcut bar. But it's not really about playing your shortcut bar. That's just an easy way for you to pick your spells and fire them off while still being able to swing your sword or use your staff. And again, one of the other things that's important about combat is if you're looking in the world and you don't have a lot of interface elements up, you can tell what monsters are doing. So we can make our monsters give you tells, and you can really see what they're doing. So for instance, if a monster is charging up an attack, that's time to block. And all of that kind of combines into making it really feel very action-oriented and reactive. When we started out kind of looking at how we wanted to do quests, one of the things we didn't want to do is we didn't want to put people on rails. We didn't want to have you, just go quest after quest after quest after quest. We wanted to make sure that you could explore, as I mentioned before. If you're on a quest, for instance, and you see this other point of interest, like say it's a cave entrance or it's a dungeon entrance, maybe you're just like, oh, I'm going to go over there and explore instead of doing what I'm doing with this quest. The whole idea is to engage the player in exploration, but still give them context for what's going on in the world. So quests kind of provide the context, and then these points of interest kind of provide the exploration opportunities. You might find things like chests, you might find things to do like go fishing. The whole idea is to encourage this exploration amongst our players. When you think about what makes you feel special in real life, it's your interactions with people, it's the way you change the world. And so we use lots of different tricks on changing the world. So for instance, if I make a choice that's different from my friend, Ted's choice or something of that nature, then my friend, might have experienced something different with this NPC than I experienced with this NPC. That NPC might treat me different. That's a very small thing that kind of starts going to where you see and you feel special. But to kind of blend lots of larger elements, like how the world looks, is one of the things that we change. We change what you're seeing in the world. We change whether you see certain NPCs or how certain NPCs look. And all of those things kind of combine to make sure that your choices, your decisions in the world are really seen by you. But it's not just that. So there's other things, like we have a main quest. And your main quest is something that you do solo. And in the world you have Molag Bal, who steals your soul. So you kind of have to go get that back on your own. Now there are NPC companions that go with you when you're doing this, but that really makes you feel special to kind of get that special treatment. It's almost a single player experience, if you will, going through that main quest. So we try to make sure that our instancing for players is something we really handle smartly. What that means is that we don't want to separate our player base too much, but for the main quest, that is something that's instance out, so we can change the world in ways that make you feel special. But we also have what we internally call layering, that allows you on the outside world to see different outcomes to different quests and different choices that way. We also have dungeons. We have instance dungeons that you can go into with like groups of 4, and we'll have our AVA, which is all of this part where Oblivion took place, called Cyrodiil. And in Cyrodiil, that's the Alliance War taking place. That's PvP taking place, and so that's a huge battle that's ongoing. That's just thousands of players in that area all at once, fighting for control of keeps and trying to get Elder Scrolls. So once you reach level 50 in what we call, PvE, or player versus environment versus PvP, you actually can go and play a different alliance with that same character. So then from there, it's all still level 50, but it starts to get harder and harder and harder. And then as you finish that second alliance, you go on to a third alliance, and that third alliance is even harder. For large group PvE, we have what we're calling adventure zones, and we haven't really revealed a lot of the details on adventure zones yet, but we definitely want to make sure that there's something there for those larger groups to do. For smaller groups, like say a group of 4, we have what we call master dungeons. So after you've completed a dungeon run the first time with your friends, once you get to level 50, you're able to do part 2 of certain dungeons, which is really cool because it's like a continuation of that story. It opens up new places in that dungeon, and that's really fun. And then of course there's the Alliance War that I mentioned earlier. When we start out in the game, we have 3 alliances. So we have the Daggerfall Covenant Alliance, which is Bretons, Redguard, and Orcs. We have the Aldmeri Dominion, which is the High Elves, or the Altmer, the Bosmer, and the Khajiit. And then we have the Ebonheart Pact. And the Ebonheart Pact has the Dark Elves, or the Dunmer. It also has Argonians, and it has the Nords. And if you played Skyrim, you're probably pretty familiar with the Nords. So those 3 alliances are vying for control of the Emperor, because the Empire has fallen during our time period. And so that's what kind of sets up the war element that's taking place in Cyrodiil, is those 3 alliances fighting for control of the Empire and fighting for who's going to be Emperor. And a player can actually be crowned Emperor. I think one of the things that will really make us stand out is the level of immersion and the level of exploration you'll get. I also think, I'm super excited about the Alliance War because I really like PvP, and I think that taking sieging keeps is huge. It's one of those fun things to do because you have catapults firing, you have trebuchets going off, and you have a lot of people who are all in the same place, and we support 200 players on screen at the same time. And so that's something that's huge. I mean, you get to see these huge battles taking place for these keeps, and that's terrific. Those battles aren't just, something that just affects like a little area. It can actually affect globally anybody who's a member of your alliance and a member of that campaign. So I'm pretty excited about our Alliance War. I think that's going to be a standout feature for us. One of the things is our game right now is in closed beta. So if you haven't already, you should go sign up for our beta. And for those people who have signed up for beta, we've had a tremendous response. So please bear with us. We are doing it in stages, and hopefully we'll get to you and get you in the beta. So the game right now is scheduled for release for PC and Mac.